Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. Can you believe it? It is once again Friday, and you know what that means. We have our FOMO Friday report. Yeah, we love to dispense of your fear of missing out because you're not listening to propaganda media anymore and you want to know what's going on. So we love to bring you this podcast every Friday that just kind of goes over a lot of the main things that are happening throughout the week. And from a series of articles from the Daily Wire comes this very first one, and you know, it kind of comes maybe 4 years too late, but President Joe Biden capped 5 decades in politics in a final address from the Oval Office on Wednesday evening. In this valedictory address, Biden began to by taking credit for the hostage deal signed hours earlier between Israel and Hamas. Over the course of the roughly 18-minute address, Biden touted his record on climate and healthcare, job creation, and foreign policy, believe it or not. He also took veiled shots at President-elect Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and others. And unmentioned throughout his address were several major flashpoints of his term, such as the chaotic withdrawal from U.S. troops from Afghanistan and the pardoning of his son Hunter. This is his quote, "After 50 years at the center of all of this, I know that believing in the idea of America means respecting the institutions that govern a free society, the presidency, the Congress, the courts, a free and independent press," said Biden. Well, the president's address was largely seen to be his last attempt at characterizing his legacy for prosperity. The address avoided obvious questions regarding his record, such as Trump's role in securing the hostage deal, the disintegration of peace in the Middle East and Europe, and the impact artificial showdowns during the pandemic had on job creation. Shutdowns is what I should have said. Biden also delivered warnings of what he characterized as dangerous trends in the United States, the rise of an American oligarchy, climate change, and disinformation. You knew he was going to go for those, right? And in what appeared to be a veiled shot at Trump and his allies, including Elon Musk, Biden warned of a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a few ultra-wealthy people. He also appeared to blame North Carolina hurricane damage on California and California wildfires on the dangers of climate change. So, yeah, it wasn't the California fires weren't the result of, years and years and years of Democratic rule and the terrible policies that they create. No, it was climate change. You got to find somebody else to blame, right? He called for a crackdown on social media for the spread of misinformation and disinformation. Quote, "I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech industrial complex that could impose real dangers for our country as well. Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power." This is what Biden said. yeah. The tech guys have not been in the pocket of Biden for how many years now? Well, here's another one he tried to come across. He says social media is giving up on fact checking. The truth is smothered by lies, told for power and for profit. We must hold the social platforms accountable. Biden's threat towards social media platforms comes after Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, of course, announced earlier this month that Facebook was severing ties with third-party fact-checking groups and moving on to an X-style system with community notes on Facebook. While announcing the change, Zuckerberg said that restrictions on speech and Facebook had grown too censorious. Biden, and of course, we just did a podcast here last week, actually two, on that very topic. Biden also called for other reforms, such as an 18-year term limit on Supreme Court justices and legislation against so-called dark money groups. He also called for an amendment to the Constitution to make clear that no president is immune from crimes he or she commits while in office. Like I say, I mean, his disappearance from the Oval Office, it can't come too soon. He's been so bad, and we're just hoping that he finds a beach somewhere and we don't really hear much from him again. I think that would benefit America the greatest. But one of the things that we've seen is that with now Biden leaving office, now, of course, we have the inauguration of the incoming president, which is Donald Trump. President-elect Donald Trump's second inauguration is just days away. And already tons of celebrities and singers have reportedly been confirmed to be attending the various festivities around the inauguration. So, celebrities like UFC's Dana White will reportedly make the trip to Washington, D.C. for the 60th presidential inaugurational weekend for Trump's historic swearing in as, once again, president of the United States, of course. And TMZ reported that. Insiders told the outlet that the guest list includes not only White, but Elon Musk and Meta chief Mark Zuckerberg, who will co-host a pre-inaugural ball reception for Trump. That ought to be kind of interesting, right? Podcast host Megyn Kelly and comedian Theo Vaughn are supposed to be on hand, as well as influencers Jake and Logan Paul. To be honest with you, I'm not sure who they are. You might have to inform me of a couple of these. Again, I'm not celebrity guy, right? Bryce Hall and Nelk Boys. The Nelk Boys? I don't know. I guess they're going to be there. You probably know who they are. I do not. Anyway, wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has, and I know who Hulk Hogan is. Okay, no big surprise he's going to be there, and he's hinted that he will be in attendance at the inauguration. He actually told Fox News, "Well, there's a little birdie that says I might just be there, pulling a few shenanigans, brother." Anyway. On Wednesday, the Trump-Vance inaugural committee announced that country stars Carrie Underwood, Kid Rock, and Jason Aldean will be just a few of the singers participating in the inauguration. At a rally before the inaugurations, singer-songwriter Kid Rock and country singer Billy Ray Cyrus will perform along with the American disco band, the Village People. You knew that was going to happen, right? They will also be singing at the ball as well. And Underwood will sing America the Beautiful at the swearing-in ceremony with American tenor Christopher Macchio, I guess. I probably slaughtered his name, but he's going to be doing the national anthem, so that ought to be interesting, along with Lee Greenwood, who will also be performing. The pageantry is wonderful, and this is a quote, and I'm excited about all of that. Greenwood told the Associated Press, "I'm excited to sing yet again for President of the United States, and particularly my friend Donald Trump." The day of the inauguration, several balls will take place with Jason Aldean, Rascal Flatts, singer Gavin DeGraw, and country star Parker McCollum booked to entertain guests. Again, you'll have to inform me on some of these. I recognize some of them, and I'd never heard of others. So anyway, following news of Underwood's involvement, the country singer released a statement that read, "I love our country and am honored to have been asked to sing at the inauguration and to be a small part of this historic event." Frontman for the country band Rascal Flats, Gary LaVox, wrote on Instagram that he was so humbled and honored and grateful for the opportunity again to play the inauguration for the 47th President of the United States. I got to play it in 2016, and now Rascal Flats will be performing at the Commander's Ball, and I am so looking forward to it. Thank you to Governor Kristi Noem and Mrs. Virginia. It will be a night to remember. But here's someone who will not be attending Trump's inauguration. Former First Lady Michelle Obama will reportedly skip President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration so she doesn't have to fake a smile for the cameras. yeah, this is a high character individual. Obama has confirmed that she will not attend on Monday, but has not publicly given a reason. A source close to her told People magazine that Obama will not pretend for protocol's sake, unquote. Quote, there's no overstating her feelings about Trump. This is what the source said anyway. She's not one to plaster on a pleasant face and pretend for protocol's sake. Michelle doesn't do anything because it's expected or it's protocol or it's tradition. Oh man, even her source sounds angry. Anyway, notably, Obama attended Trump's first inauguration with her husband after Trump won in 2016. Quote, she served in the public eye and did all the public good that she could for 8 years as First Lady. This is again that source for Obama. She said that you'll see her when she has a project or cause to promote, but she doesn't feel the need to be a public figure anymore. Okay. Last week, Obama was not in attendance at a former President Jimmy Carter's funeral. She did not show up for that. A New York Times report placed Obama in Hawaii at the time of the ceremony, and her spokeswoman, Crystal Carson, said the former First Lady had a conflict and thus could not attend. Yeah, a conflict, which of course took precedent over, the funeral of a former president. She said that she sent her thoughts and prayers to the Carter family and everyone who loved and learned from the remarkable former president. Former President Barack Obama attended the funeral by himself and sat next to Trump. And the pair actually grabbed the internet's attention for their seemingly friendly conversation. Trump evidently cracked Obama up with some sort of joke or something, he said. Mrs. Obama has notably not stopped engaging in politics over the summer. She spoke at the 2024 Democratic National Convention, praising Vice President Kamala Harris and taking, of course, swipes at Trump. Quote, it couldn't be more obvious of the two major candidates in this race. Only Kamala Harris truly understands the unseen labor and unwavering commitment that has always made America great. This is what Obama said. Now, unfortunately, we know what comes next. For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us, she claimed. His limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hard-working and highly educated, successful people who happen to be black. Yeah, she's not wanting the public eye on her. No. Well, Kid Rock, I loved what Kid Rock had to say in response to this. He said, I heard Michelle Obama's not attending. I would kindly remind her that years back when Obama was first elected, I did not vote for him, but they asked me to play the inauguration, and I played it, and I went and had a good time. So anyway, yeah, it's like I say, high character people, there's low character people, there's people in between, and oftentimes things like this just kind of shows your character. Well, We have a bit of sad news, and this comes by way of Bob Uecker. You might not know who Bob Uecker is, but Bob Uecker played Major League Baseball for 6 years for the Milwaukee Braves, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the St. Louis Cardinals, and also the Atlanta Braves before starting a legendary career as the Milwaukee Brewers broadcaster. For a whopping 54 years, he was their broadcaster, the Milwaukee Brewers. He died on Thursday at the age of 90. Now, Uecker's career was anything but legendary. He finished his career with a lowly .200 batting average and only 14 home runs with 731 at bats. Quote, to make people laugh is a good thing. I used to get questions from my kids about, why do you do that? Why do you talk about yourself the way that you do? And I said, because it's funny and it makes people laugh, Uecker said. he definitely was able to do that. Slugger Hank Aaron said, could he hit? I'm just glad I didn't take his advice. Matthews, he's a Eddie Matthews. He's a third baseman, Hall of Famer. He said that we would talk about hitting, and everybody would tell Bob this conversation that you're out of. So anyway, you can't have the conversation with us about hitting because because you couldn't hit. So anyway, quote, I roomed with him in St. Louis, former Cardinal star catcher and later famed broadcaster Tim McCarver recalled. He said, and from day one, he was screamingly funny. If the ball club was going bad, he could say something that could make everybody laugh and relax. That was what Aaron remembered. Uecker would joke about singing with his hometown Milwaukee Braves for $3,000 in 1956. Quote, that bothered my dad at the time because he didn't have that kind of dough, but he eventually scrapped it up, and he said he's very funny on air, is what Bob Costas said, but he's an exceptionally good broadcaster. Costas said that you really feel the game through him, and that's that's really saying something for a broadcaster to be able to really feel the game or see the game, even though you may not be able to see it, you're just listening to it or whatever. That's a high compliment. Here's another quote. I think where he really shines is when the game is 11-2 and it's the 6th inning, because then you have to go to plan B and he starts telling stories. This is what Pat Hughes, his broadcast partner from 84 to 95, said. He said that aspect differentiates him maybe from any other play-by-play man that's ever lived. Here's another one here. It says, well, Bob is a comedic genius, and no one could have seen it had he not gone on Johnny Carson and done what he did. This is McCarver asserted. He said Carson laughed so often that at Uecker's jokes that he had Uecker on frequently, more than 100 times he was on Johnny Carson's show, and he called him Mr. Baseball. Uecker's frequent appearances on the Tonight Show led to TV and movie roles, of course, but in the end, it was baseball for which he was famous. Milwaukee adored Uecker, and McCarver noted that when a man has two statues of himself, one outside the stadium and one inside the stadium, that gives you an idea of just how much Bob Uecker has meant to the city of Milwaukee. And, I think I will remember him from a commercial that he did. And to be honest, I don't even remember what the commercial was for. I think it was maybe it was a Bud Light thing or something. I don't remember. But anyway, he was acting like a fan who had gotten tickets to the game, and he got in there and he was way he was kind of sitting way up high and eating his popcorn, and the usher comes along and says, hey, come here, these aren't your seats. And he turns to the person next to him, he says, oh, Must be in the front row. And so anyway, of course, the next thing you see, he's all the way up to the very top. But anyway, very, very funny guy, and he'll be missed. Well, one of the things I wanted to bring you some good news after a little bit of bad news there. And on Wednesday, 42 GOP senators introduced the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. Now, this act would allow individuals with concealed carry rights in their home state to exercise those same rights in any other state that allows concealed carry while still abiding by the state laws. So the bill protects state sovereignty, but not establishing a nationwide standard for concealed carry. So let me read to you what the bill states here, because this is actually a very good thing. It says, an individual who is not prohibited by federal law from possessing, transporting, shipping, or receiving a firearm, and who is carrying a government-issued photographic identification document and a valid license or permit, which is issued pursuant to the law of a state and which permits the individual to carry a concealed firearm, may possess or carry a concealed handgun other than a machine gun or a destructive device. It actually adds in there, that has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce in any state other than the states of residence of the individual, that has a statute that allows residents of the state to obtain licenses or permits to carry concealed firearms, or does not prohibit the carrying of concealed firearms by residents of the state for lawful purposes. That's what it says. So, like I say, this is huge. Basically, if I have a, let's put it this way, if I have a driver's license to drive a car, and I do, I have one in the state of Washington, is issued by the state of Washington. But if I want to go outside the state of Washington, I can. So let's say I go over into Oregon. I don't have to have an Oregon driver's license in order to drive in Oregon. But that's not the case when it comes to concealed carry. Concealed carry, basically, if I have a concealed carry license as well for the state of Washington. But if I want to go into Oregon, right, the way it works right now, I have to have a concealed carry license for the state of Oregon. Just because just because I have one in Washington doesn't mean that I can actually carry in Oregon or any other state for the most part. There are some states that do say, hey, yeah, if you have one in a certain state, then you can carry here too. But there's just a mishmash of laws all over the United States, and this would basically say if you have a license in one particular state to carry, then you can carry anywhere else. Quote, this legislation would reduce unnecessary burden for law-abiding citizens, allow them to carry a concealed firearm in every state that permits it, and I'm grateful for the overwhelming support from my fellow Republican colleagues on this common sense bill. This was a quote from Texas GOP Senator John Cornyn. So last week, the House of Representatives introduced a companion bill, the H.R. 38. The Crime Prevention Research Center states that nearly 22 million Americans hold concealed carry permits. So there's a lot of people that do, and that's growing. President-elect Donald Trump has promised to sign the bill if it reaches his desk. And the National Rifle Association, or the NRA, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the NSSF, and the Gun Owners of America, GOA, has endorsed the legislation, of course. And so it'll be interesting. It will be very interesting. I would love to see this happen, because this would be a very good thing. And this next story it's a little bit personal in some ways, because the Daughters of the American Revolution is an organization that has done some work when it comes to my ancestry. I've been able to get quite a bit of information about my ancestry through the Daughters of the Revolution, and a Texas Daughters of the American Revolution chapter has decided to fight back against its national organization's decision to allow trans-identifying males into the historic female group. We talked a little bit about this in another FOMO Friday, but in a letter from the Martha Laird chapter with help from the Center for American Liberty, it has pushed back against a threat from its leadership that by prohibiting transgender males, the Daughters of American Revolution would somehow lose its tax exempt status. And so, it's. I hope in this case that they actually do end up winning in this, because oftentimes what we see is we see organizations just kind of roll over and say, okay, we're we'll let men in, if it's a exclusive women's type organization, or like for instance, so we talked about a few months back about the disc golf professional disc golf association now allowing men to play in the women's divisions because they don't have the money to fight it in court, and so they're not going to do it. Well, in this case, the Daughters of the American Revolution are going to fight back, and so this is a good thing. We're going to keep an eye on this, and we're going to see just how far that this will go, but like I say, I like the fact that they're standing up and they're saying, no, men cannot be a part of Daughters of American Revolution. Okay. And in this next story, kind of disturbing, but maybe not surprising. A cartoonist famous for calling attention to racism and criticizing Republicans was arrested on suspicion of possessing child pornography in Sacramento County this last Thursday. The Sacramento Bee said Darren Bell, the Pulitzer Prize-winning cartoonist, made history as the first Black cartoonist to have 2 nationally syndicated strips, including Can Dornville, which features 3 childhood friends of color and their daily lives in the inner city. Now he has made history again with his arrest for alleged possession of artificial intelligence-generated child abuse material, just days after a California law banning AI porn went into effect. For years, the Washington Post writer group syndicated Bell's cartoons in the Post and other papers, and he also published cartoons in the New Yorker, the Los Angeles Times, and the San Francisco Chronicle, as well as other publications. But he won a Pulitzer Prize in 2019, quote, for beautiful and daring editorial cartoons that took on issues affecting disenfranchised communities, calling out lies, hypocrisy, and fraud in the political turmoil surrounding the Trump administration, unquote. Well, after winning the prize, Bell said he had retired from cartooning, but returned in 2012 because he was outraged over the acquittal of a man who shot Trayvon Martin and was inspired by the national conversation about race and criminal justice. This is what ABC reported at the time. Bell said that respect for human dignity is the common thread that I try to weave through every cartoon that I draw. Yeah, he's also part of BLM, by the way, and so that should not surprise you that he is, again, one. We talked a little bit earlier about low character individuals, and this guy definitely seems to fall into that category. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's end on this story, and I know we don't have much time here, but the senior senator from Oregon, who is supposed to, by law, live in Oregon, but unfortunately does not, in his case, live in Oregon. He lives in New York with his family there. He is the senior senator. He's been there the longest, and Ron Wyden is his name, and he kind of made a little bit of a fool of himself. I want you to hear this because it's just downright funny. Listen to this.
Now there is a big effort in the Trump administration to reverse it. I think that's going to be bad for the economy, but it is going to be damn good for China because we are in an arms race on clean energy with them. Are you going to be on the side of people who want to unravel this?
Senator Wyden, just so we can frame this for everyone in the room, China will build 100 new coal plants this year. There is not a clean energy race. There is an energy race. China will build 10 nuclear plants this year. That is not solar. I am in favor of more nuclear plants.
So that is hilarious. I mean, what you just heard there was Ron Wyden, Senator Ron Wyden, was trying to trap the Trump nominee for Treasury Secretary. His name is Scott Bassett, and he absolutely schools him by saying, hey, look, because Wyden is saying, hey, are you going to go through this whole keep up with this race for clean energy with China? And Scott Bassett is like, there's no clean energy race because China is building a coal-fired plant, actually 2 coal-fired plants every single week. They're building new ones there. So there's no clean energy anything going on in China right now. And Senator Wyden doesn't even know that. And so anyway, just, if you got to see any of the nominees for the different secretary positions go before the Senate this week, a lot of those guys looked very, very good. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they will do in office. So anyway, I'd love to hear from you on it. If you want to, you can always, of course, get a hold of us at uncommonsensepodcast.com. And thank you very much for listening. This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.